She marched down my gravel path like she owned the damn mountain. No knock, no call. Just stormed up with two red-faced guests, stomping behind her beer cans still in hand. Karen didn't even look at me when she yelled, "You can't just kick out my friends like that." I didn't say a word at first. I just pointed at the wooden sign nailed to the pine tree at the edge of my property. Private cabin, nitrogen monoxide, trespassing owner lives on site. One of the guests, the taller one with the backwards cap, took a step forward. "You think you can tell us what to do? You were just swimming. You climbed my locked fence," I said. "You walked past to no entry signs. That's not swimming. That's trespassing." Karen's face flushed. "They're my guests, and this is community land." "No, it's not," I cut in. "You've lived here for 5 years, Karen. You know damn well my cabin in the lakefront. It sits on we're never part of the HOA jurisdiction." "But it's not fair," she snapped. "Your place is the only one with lake access. You're hoarding it." That's when the second guy, stockier, bald drunkard, decided to toss his beer can into my bushes. "Screw this. Let's just go back and grab our stuff." I stepped forward. "No, you're not going back through that fence. You can leave through the side trail." Now, Karen pulled out her phone. "Fine, I'm calling the cops," you assaulted. My guests. My stomach clenched for a second until I remembered something important. I had installed new cameras last week after the last time Karen's guests snuck onto my dock. They'd vandalized my boat. I smiled. "Good, call them. I've got the whole thing on camera." She froze. The two guys exchanged looks. "Every step you took, every word you said, ... caught in 4K. Karen didn't hang up. She just turned around and started screaming into the phone. "Yes, officer. I'm being threatened on my own property." I whispered under my breath, just loud enough for them to hear. "This ain't your property, Karen. And the truth's about to show up in a police cruiser." 15 minutes later, 2 sheriff's deputies pulled up the winding gravel road, lights off, but eyes sharp. Karen rushed toward them like a kid trying to win a school race, waving her arms and pointing at me like she'd already won the case. "That's him," she shouted. "He locked my guests in and wouldn't let them leave. They were just trying to enjoy the lake." The taller guest stepped up and added, "He threatened us. Got in my face and said we couldn't come back through." We felt unsafe. I stayed leaning against my porch railing, arms crossed, calm. When the deputy turned to me, I spoke first. "Before anything else," I said, reaching slowly into my pocket, "here's the flash drive." He took it, confused. "It's from my cabin cameras. Covers everything from the moment they climbed my fence to when she called you." Karen's smile twitched. "He's trying to fabricate stuff?" "Not even legal." The deputy raised an eyebrow. "Ma'am, security footage is perfectly legal, especially when it's his own land." That word again, his. Karen flinched at it. The other officer walked the fence line while the first reviewed the footage on his squad laptop. Pause. He looked up, squinting at Karen like she was starting to smell funny. "So you're saying you didn't see the no trespassing signs?" "They're tiny," Karen snapped. "And he put them up to keep people out of the lake. This lake belongs to everyone." The deputy turned the screen toward her. "This you?" he asked, pointing at the sign, laughing, and saying he can't stop us. Karen's mouth opened, closed, opened again. "Look, I was just trying to be a good neighbor." "No," the deputy cut in. "You were trying to rewrite the rules. And worse, you made a false police call." When the second officer came back, found the beer cans, found the crushed fence post. Looks like intentional damage. Now, the mood shifted. The guests started backing away. Karen turned pale. "Why, you're going to arrest us." "For walking near some stupid cabin." Deputy stared her down. "For trespassing, property damage, and false reporting? That's 3 charges. And I haven't even checked if you're in violation of your HOA agreement yet." Karen looked like she'd just been slapped. And then, like clockwork, she reached for her last card. "You don't understand who I am. I'm on the HOA board. I make the calls around here." That's when I stepped off my porch, slow and steady, and dropped the final line. "No, Karen, you were on the HOA board. You got voted out last week." Her head whipped toward me. And guess who filled your spot? The guests stared. Karen blinked. I smiled. Me. Karen staggered back like the ground had shifted under her. That's not possible, she stammered. You don't even attend the meetings? I shrugged. I did last month. Quietly. Right after you tried to pass that fake noise. Violation on me for having a barbecue on Memorial Day. Turns out, most of the neighborhood's sick of you too. So when your term came up, well, I ran unopposed. One of the deputies glanced between us, clearly entertained now. The taller guest muttered something under his breath, sounded like, "Damn, Karen, you didn't tell us all that." She spun toward him. "Shut up, Brad. This doesn't concern you." But it did. Because now Brad and his buddy weren't just witnesses, they were part of a very real police report. And the deputies were already walking them over to the squad car to separate and question them. Karen's voice started cracking. "You can't do this. You can't take them in. They didn't do anything." The second deputy replied without looking at her. "They trespassed. They damaged private property. And your call was false. That's enough for us to start paperwork. You're free to follow us to the station. If you'd like to give your statement formally." Karen looked at me like she wanted to scream, like she was expecting me to save her. Maybe somewhere in that twisted mind of hers, she still thought this was some kind of neighborhood spat. She could smooth over with cookies and fake apologies, but this wasn't about a lake or a fence. Anymore, it was about power and what happens when someone like her misuses it. "You set them up," she hissed. "You planned this whole thing." I didn't even flinch. "You walked into it on your own." Brad, now sitting on the edge of the cruiser's seat, leaned out. "Karen, ... You said he didn't really live here, that this was just a shack." Left abandoned, her jaw tightened. "I was never supposed to be here today." The deputy looked at me. "You mind if we get a statement from you, sir?" I nodded. Of course. Oh, and just so there's no confusion. I walked over to the cabin door, unlocked it, and grabbed a thick binder from inside. I handed it to the deputy. Property deed, cabin blueprints. HOA exemption papers signed by the original board in 1997. This land was carved out before the HOA even existed. Karen knows that. She's just been hoping no one else would check. The deputy flipped through it and whistled. "Well, damn, that's airtight." Karen's knees almost buckled. I looked her dead in the eye. "Game over, Karen. You don't own the lake. And you sure as hell don't run this neighborhood anymore." She didn't speak after that. Not a word. Just stood there with her arms stiff at her sides, lips trembling, eyes blinking like she couldn't believe the world had flipped, but it had. And it kept flipping. Because just as the deputy started, walking the guests to the second cruiser, a third vehicle pulled up, black SUV, government plates. The door opened, and out stepped a man in a plain polo shirt and a sheriff's badge clipped to his belt. His face was stone, eyes scanning the scene like he already knew the story. Karen's voice came back in a whisper. "Why? Why is he here?" The deputy standing beside me nodded toward him. "That's Chief Investigator Maddox. He's here because of the vandalism reports and those anonymous complaints we've been getting about someone abusing HOA power to harass neighbors." Karen turned ghost white. I didn't look away from her. "You know those notices you've been slipping onto people's doors? Fines for lawn height, mailbox color, invisible violations no one could confirm?" Karen said nothing. I continued. "Turns out 5 families filed claims. 2 of them moved out over it. You pushed a retired couple to sell their home of 40 years. All because you wanted uniformity." Maddox stepped forward, his tone calm but cold. "And someone's been using HOA letterhead to issue threats that were never board approved. That's impersonation of a governing body. That's a felony." Karen swallowed hard. "I was just trying to keep things organized." "No," he said, flipping open a folder. "You were weaponizing your position. We've got email records. A whistleblower from the board. And now we've got footage clear as daylight of you and 2 men trespassing, lying to officers, and provoking conflict." She looked at me like she was drowning. You turned everyone against me." I shook my head slowly. "You did that yourself, Karen. I had just turned the lights on. The bald guest finally snapped. Screw this. I didn't know any of this. I just came here to chill, man. She said this was her lake. Yeah, said Maddox, turning toward him. You came to chill, and you left with a vandalism charge. Maybe next time you don't follow someone yelling at fences. Karen's shoulders slumped. Her hands trembled. This can't be happening. I built this neighborhood. I've lived here longer than anyone and abused it more than anyone, I interrupted. Maddox gave the signal. Take her in. We'll sort the rest at the station. One deputy stepped forward with cuffs. That's when Karen snapped. You can't arrest me. I am the HOA. Ow. The line echoed through the trees like a joke dropped in church silence. Maddox raised an eyebrow. Not anymore, you're not. And just like that. The woman who spent years bullying others with forged fines, fake rules, and fear tactics got walked down a trail she never saw coming straight into the backseat of a cruiser, flanked by the laws she thought she could bend. But this wasn't over, because what she didn't know, what nobody knew, was that this lake had secrets, and Karen had just triggered something much bigger than a trespassing charge.